Hello, everyone. It's time to eat, drink, and be merry with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Eat, Drink, and Be Merry show. Of course, it's Wine Wednesday. It's a perfect day to talk about amazing wines. And Nancy and I are very excited about today's show. It's all about the exquisite wines produced at Kenefick Ranch in Calistoga in California's beautiful Napa Valley. And, Diva Linda Kissam, food wine travel writer, the food wine shopping diva. She's also the president of the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. We just got to see her a weekend or so ago here in Yuma, Arizona for the second annual Yuma Bird Nature History Festival. And right after she left, a wonderful delivery of Kenefick Ranch wines arrived here at the hotel. And Nancy and I have had an amazing week tasting these wines, the three of them. And I like what she says in Linda Kissam's article that's up right now. You can see it at blendradioandtv.com. I quote, she says, making a strong statement on my list of the best mid-range red wines are three wines from Kenefick Ranch in Napa Valley, California. Full-bodied, smooth, and tannic, these wines are right up a wine lover's alley. If you like deep, elegant, and aromatic wines, I think you'll fall in love at first sip. Nancy, we would say we did, right? with these wines.
Absolutely.
Very excited.
They're so yummy.
They are delicious, beautifully balanced wines, and we're excited to have Diva Linda back on the show. But also, we have a special guest. We have Dr. Tom Kenefick, who's the founder of Kenefick Ranch, joining us as well. So welcome, Dr. Kenefick. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very good.
Hey,
nice day here in Northern California. And we're waiting for the football game tomorrow between the Niners and Wisconsin, Green Bay.
Oh, and
my old territory. I grew up in Minnesota, so we were always competitive with Green Bay. So I think the Niners are favored.
So now what wine do you enjoy while you're watching football?
Well, usually a Cabernet or Merlot, one of the heavier reds, and then I have some food or some hors d'oeuvres to go along with it while I'm watching the game.
Excellent.
So you're going to cheer for both teams?
Pardon?
Are you going to cheer for both teams?
Oh, I'm going to cheer more for the Niners. I have a younger brother who still lives in Wisconsin.
So a little competition there.
A little split. Yep.
Hey, I like this.
Tell us how did you get from Minnesota to Napa Valley? How did that happen for you?
Well, as you know, you introduced me as a doctor, so I was a neurosurgeon. I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, went to St. Thomas Academy and St. Thomas College, and then University of Minnesota Medical School. And then I came back and started my neurosurgery at the Mayo Clinic. And I was there for about 9 years, interrupted 2 years in the Navy, and then I came back and finished my residency, and then did some pediatric neurosurgery in Southern California, and then came back as an assistant to the staff for about a year. And my father was an internist in St. Paul. My grandfather was a family practitioner in northern Iowa, and I intended to go into practice in St. Paul. But the two neurosurgeons over there said, "You don't want to come here. We're struggling to make a living. There's nothing, you'll kind of die on the vine." And so at that time, one of the staff surgeons at the Mayo Clinic took me to lunch and said, I see what you're going through, because I was looking at places on the East Coast and all over. And he said, "Just go to where you want to live." I said, "Oh, I'd love to live in San Francisco. I think there are too many neurosurgeons there as it is." He said, "Well, I'll see." So he wrote, and he found a group that was looking for someone, a very, very good group. A couple of them were officers of the American Association of Neurological Surgeons. So I came out in 1969 sort of as a lark, just to see if it would work, and if it didn't, I'd go back to St. Paul, but I never went back. And then I had an interest in wine, and that accelerated during my time there in San Francisco. And so in 1980, 69, 79, in 1980, we bought property here in Napa Valley, and it was a weekend chore, a weekend excursion that I love to just get out in the sun. I like to look at things. I like to look. Somebody asked me in an interview once before, is there any tie-in between medicine? I said, yes, I love to have a clean vineyard, no diseases. So I look for the symptoms in the leaves and symptoms in the plants, and try to rogue out anything that has a disease. So the whole vineyard is very clean. I hope we're one of the cleanest vineyards in Napa Valley. So that was so I tied in, and then I retired from medicine at 65 in 2000, and moved here full time. And then we released our first wine in 2002. During the time when I was still farming, I was experimenting with what I thought would be the best clones and the best rootstocks for our land here in Calistoga. And for Cabernet, for example, we have 14 different clones of Cabernet on 5 different rootstocks. Trying to decide which is going to be best. The same, we have 3 or 4 clones of Cabernet Franc, and we have, I think, 2 clones of Merlot. We only have 1 clone of Sauvignon Blanc, and then we also make another white wine that's mostly Grenache Blanc.
So the total number of wines that you make is how many right now? How many wines are for sale?
How many wines? I almost have to count. There's 2 whites. There's Sauvignon Blanc, and then there's a Rhone varietal, which is a little unusual for Napa Valley, but we started with that, and we really like the Grenache Blanc part of it. So we sometimes make just Grenache Blanc, but usually it's Grenache Blanc and some Marsanne and Viognier. And then we make Merlot, Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot or Petit Verdot blend, and Malbec.
You said the magic word, Malbec. Oh my!
Oh my gosh!
Malbec.
I didn't know that.
I saw Syrah on your website, and everyone, I want you to have the website too. KenefickRanch.com. You can shop online there. They've got great gifts as well. But I saw it. So that is the Syrah and the Malbec. Can we have Christmas again, Nancy?
Yeah. I'd like to ask Doctor a question. I used to be the director of a wine region, and one of the most fascinating things to me was learning about clone selection and why you do that and what exactly that means. Can you explain a little bit why clone selection is so important to a productive vineyard and one that will give you the types of grapes you're looking for?
Well, yeah, each clone has its own profile. Some of them are more aromatic. Some of them are a little bit more acidic. Each clone and each clone expresses itself differently on different rootstocks. So it really is a statistical game to try to balance which clone you're looking at, which you think are best, and which rootstock they go on best, and it depends upon exactly the soil. We think that some of, especially the Cabernet Franc, is good from this area. Our soils are very volcanic. We're at the bottom of the Palisade Range of mountains. It's all wooded land until we hit our vineyard, and then it also gets warm enough in Calistoga so that fruits get ripe, and we don't have to worry about cutting down or not getting ripe. When we first started making Cabernet Franc, other people tasted and said, "Man, how do you get this way?" Because they do a lot of things in the southern part of Napa to be sure that gets ripe. And we said, "Well, we just let it hang until we think it's ripe enough." I started out when I was going to make wine. I was going to make one wine, and that would be a blend of all 5 Bordeaux varietals. That's why we have all 5 planted. And everything we make, by the way, is 100% estate grown. We don't being a grower for 20 years, I think I know a lot about the growing, and I don't like to buy grapes from somebody else. I'm not sure how well they're taking care of it. So everything is grown right on our vineyard, right on our property here in Calistoga.
Very cool. I like
I
that
like-
because
How
now you
big,
know.
how big of a vineyard staff do you have now?
Well, we're farming 125 acres, and we
Mhm.
have between 10 and 12. We go up to 12 people working in the vineyard, Hispanics. The foreman has been with me almost since the beginning. He's been here probably at least 30 years. And then he has two brothers and then his son. And I think a lot of the rest of them are almost all related. We provide housing for four out of the 10 people. And the rest of them live close here in Calistoga and just ride a bicycle to work. So we're not running around.
Wow.
We farm ourselves. We don't have a farming contract manager that brings people in every once in a while.
Wow.
Everybody just works here every day, so they get to know the place
Hmm.
quite well.
You know, I said
So
your
can you-
wines are balanced and in flavor to us, as Nancy and I were, sampling and really enjoying them. And the word balance kept coming off of our tongues. We're like, this is just so perfectly balanced. It sounds to me that the actual operation and the land, that you have a balance between the people working, in the vineyards, but also the land, and the way you're saying that, you're running it as clean as possible. But it seems that that's where the balance starts, is from the ground up.
Yeah, and then a good winemaker. Ken Charm is our winemaker. And then we have tastings with he and I and my son Chris, who's in charge of marketing. We have tastings as the wines develop in the barrel, and see if there's anything we need to do or change or anything to get them to the point that we want for bottling.
Mm.
So you would only make changes once you've harvested the grapes. No changes during when the grapes are growing. Like if it gets super hot or something, you might want to do something so the grapes do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, a lot of it. There's a saying. I was on the board of the Napa Valley Grape Growers, and it says great wines are made in the vineyard.
Mm.
And I think that's true. So we go through, and we have another outside consultant, Tom Prentice, who comes once a week, and he's probably the person that anybody turns to if they have a problem they can't figure out in the valley. And then he also goes down to San Luis Obispo and travels around the state to do things. And he's taught our people so that it's a lot of it is what's called vertical shoot positioning, where it's just one row and straight up. And we've trained our guys over the years that every shoot does go straight. They don't overlap, so you don't get shading of a bunch. And then we do what's called declumping. If there's two bunches that are close to each other, we'll cut one of them down and just drop it so that the whole of the bunch is exposed. If you have two bunches that are close to each other, the inside of the place where the two of them are touching, that doesn't get as much sun. It doesn't get the air circulation. It doesn't get any of the chemicals to prevent mildew. So you want the bunch totally isolated. And then so the declumping takes a fair amount of cuts back on our production. We usually get only about 2.5 or 3, maximum 4 tons to the acre. A lot of people, for example, Sauvignon Blanc, a lot of people maybe get 8 or 10 tons to the acre.
Right.
But we don't think that at that tonnage that each grape or the wine that comes out of it is as good or as flavorful or as complex as what we would like to get.
Well, it seems like if the plants aren't touching, if there was a problem, any kind of fungus or anything, that it would be way easier to fix than if they're all hugging each other.
Correct, yeah. And then they don't get the inside where they're touching each other, they don't get ripe, they don't get sun. I mean, you have to get sun exposed on on the bunch to get each grape to turn, like when they turn at veraison and they get in full color. Sometimes you see pictures in a magazine that shows a bunch of a grape bunch hanging in the vine, and there'll be a lot of like light red or even green berries in there. And I say, I wouldn't put that in a magazine. You want to have them all the same, so you want good uniformity.
Wow.
Those other ones, the unripe berries will still go in and into the blend or into the wine and cause some off flavors. We're just starting to build our own winery, which is our next project, and there are now what are called optical scanners. And after you're down to just berries and they're on a little beltway, and the scanner will pick out ones that don't have the same color density. So we've got room to improve even further.
Wow. Diva Linda, I remember you showing us variation for the first time, and I was just thought, oh look, they're different colored grapes. And I remember we were in the Sequoias, remember? And you're like, Lisa, look at this. Nancy, look at this. Now this is variation. I'm like, I had no idea, but we did have fun there. But yeah. This is interesting. Go ahead.
Doctor, can you tell me a little bit about matching row alignment and why you do that?
Yes, we've learned some of our first plantings, just because we didn't have enough money, we had what's called an open lyre. That is, the plant comes up and then you go, say, right and left, if you think of your body as a plant, and then each of those goes up, and that sort of stresses the plant. And we've converted from that to just one shoot, what's called vertical shoot, so you get better air circulation and better management than the divided canopy. But
so it's like
the last that we planted, the row orientation is 20 degrees east of north, and with that, if you take your finger and say that's a row, the sun arc is from in its hottest from about 11 o'clock in the morning until 3 in the afternoon is actually straight down that row, so that the berries are exposed but are not exposed to too much direct high heat. If you get high heat, or if it's directed, if they faced west and you get the western sun at 2 and 3 in the afternoon, then those berries can shrivel and turn into raisins. So where we do have some of that, because we didn't know as much about them when we first planted them 40 years ago, we leave more leaves on that side because we de-leaf. You take the leaves down so you have dappled or mottled sunlight on the bunch. You don't want it fully exposed. We made that mistake one time. A winemaker wanted us to do that, and we exposed it a week or two before harvest, and when we came around to harvest, they mostly had all turned to raisins. So we said, "Thanks a lot. You didn't." Yeah, we learned from that bad experiment.
Wow.
I can hear other language.
Yes.
It's a little bit of live and learn.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the whole thing about farming and making wine is they're expensive mistakes, but you have to. We call things like that school fees, and
Yeah.
Diva Linda, your article for Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, everyone, you'll be able to read it in the February-March issue, again at blendradioandtv.com. You titled your article, Taste Zero Compromise, Kenefick Ranch Wines. Taste Zero Compromise. Tell us about that.
Well, having been a director of a wine region in my former PR life, I know that there are various ways to get to wine. I thoroughly agree with Dr. in Napa, where they used to say, or I don't, maybe they still say it, that great wines start in the vineyard, and then they're of course handed over to the winemaker, and from there different wines are made. But so what I understand, and as I was reading and talking to doctor's PR person, I'm fascinated. First of all, doctors, as I remember, I think that there were 30 some odd wineries by the time I left. The doctors and the scientists generally had the best run wineries, and by that I mean the vineyards, and then the winemaking facilities and the winery. There's 3 steps to that. I know doctors are now going to be putting in a winery, but it's this winemaking and vineyards in particular are very scientific. You really have to spend an awful lot of time. And what I noticed was it takes a tremendous amount of money, first of all, and then second of all, of course, the amount of time you spend it. And at any one point that you compromise, and you know better, and you compromise, your wines won't be as good as they can be. And sometimes that's a journey. Sometimes when you start, it's not, you think, oh, I can do plan B rather than plan A. But once you know that you shouldn't be doing plan B when plan A will give you what you need, that's where you get the kind of wines that Kenefick Winery produces. I mean, it's really quite clear to me that all 3 of the wines that I tasted, the Cab Franc and 2 Cabs, were consistently good. It's very difficult to go to a winery, and especially if they're doing 7 or more wines, to see a consistency across each and every wine. Some they might do good, some might be okay, and then some might be great. But I think, Doctor, am I correct in this? What you're really looking for is great consistency across every wine that you make. Am I correct?
Yep, that's exactly right. And, we spend a lot of time. As I said, I was at a meeting one time and somebody had just moved to Napa, and we were talking about starting to make their wines right away. And they sort of said, well, why would anyone else want to do anything else but make wine? And I said, well, I was a grower for 20 years before we started making our wine. So I think I learned during that time to be a grower. By the way, you talk about different wines, and I mentioned the wines that are our standard one, and then we make 2 sort of upscale wines. I mean, our cab is named after my son. My son and daughter are co-owners. I've given them as much of the land, so I hope it stays in the family for generations. That's kind of hard to do with some of the tax problems now with inheritance and things. But I hope it'll stay for generations. And like I said, everything we make is only from our own vineyard. So the Cabernet Sauvignon is Chris's cuvée, and that's my son. He works for us full time. He graduated from the School of Hotel Restaurant Management at Denver University, and then worked for 4 seasons for 4 or 5 years. And that's a hard, tough life. And he finally decided he'd come and work full time here. And he's been a godsend, because I was beginning to get a little old and tired of getting out on the road and marketing. So he does all that now. And then my daughter works for a high-end search, executive search firm in New York City, but she does marketing on the East Coast for us. And the Cabernet Franc is named after her, because Cabernet Franc is a little bit softer, a little bit more feminine, so I named one. And then after 4 or 5 years, I said, excuse me, I never named anything after myself. So then we came up with our Doctor's Cuvée and our Founder's Reserve. The Doctor's Cuvée is primarily Cabernet, and for the 2 upscale wines, we do change some things. One, we pick what we think are the most ideal fields and put them into that blend, and then they're a full 2 years in 100% new French oak. Our usual regimen is about 65% new French, and 35 barrels have been used once before. Sometimes you get too much oakiness if you have all new. But it's 100% new French oak, and it's a full 2 years, and so they're bottled separately. We only make, I think it's 2 or 3 barrels, so it's about 75 cases of each of those. And the Founder's Reserve is what I what I started out to make in the beginning, and that has all 5 Bordeaux varietals. And we approach it a little bit differently. Some of the wines in Napa Valley that do claim all 5 Bordeaux varietals, they're usually 80 or 90% Cabernet, and then just a sprinkle of some of the others, just to say they have all 5 in it. And I've thought those were good wines. Somebody gave me a bottle of one from Sonoma when I operated on them, and they had a good result. And they had the percentage right on their front label. We haven't done that yet. We put it on the back label. But we aim at about equal representation of each. That's what we start the blend with. And then we play with it a little bit to see what we think is the best blend. So it's close to 20% of each of the 5 varietals.
Wow.
Is there a way of, if something happens weather-wise or something during the growing of the grapes, after you harvest them, is there a way of correcting anything? Like, okay, now because of this that happened during the growing, we now need to leave this in this kind of barrel longer. Does it work like that?
Well, you're getting above my pay grade a little bit.
Sorry.
I call myself a brain surgeon and a grape farmer, and I'm not as good at changing things in once it's in the winery. I leave that to the winemaker. You know, he went 4 years to UC Davis School of Viticulture to learn all those things, how you correct deficiencies and problems and how you balance it. We get chemistries on all the wines about every week or two as they're all developing, and see if there's anything that needs to be corrected at that time.
Let me ask you a question. Of the wines that I've seen, not one of them are vineyard designated. Do you think you'll ever do a vineyard designated wine?
Most people, because we have a good enough reputation now for our vineyard, we're asking most people that get wine from us to vineyard designated. And probably the biggest one is Nickel and Nickel. They make a vineyard designated Kenefick Ranch, and then some of the smaller producers make that. We're also right across the street from a big new development by Four Seasons, which is going to have 85 beds in a hotel, and then I don't know what, about 30 or 40 homes that they're selling. People can live in or rent out or selling. And they're going to have a small winery on the property, and the winemaker is one of the better known winemakers in Napa Valley, Thomas Rivers Brown. And he contacted us, and we've been selling to him now for 3 years. So we're going to be the number one choice, probably wine by the glass, or at least the number one choice of the wines, and people can have a sip of the wine or look right across the street and look at the vineyard. We're also just across Silverado Trail from Solage, and they feature our wines frequently.
I like also that people can go online too and purchase, and you have a wine club too, and I know that those are really a popular way of connecting with your fans, your wine fans. But it's interesting because you have these really nice gift sets too that people can purchase too. So I'm just thinking, with Valentine's Day coming up, Mother's Day, Father's Day, oh yeah, Nancy's birthday, and having those extras on there, it really makes it special, just that added touch when you gift wine, because everyone should gift your wine. So to spread it across the country.
Yeah, if you're a higher end wine club member, like a case member, we have a small, and if you ladies come this way sometime, I'd be glad to host you there, but we have a small old farmhouse, a 2-bedroom farmhouse that sits on a little hill above the vineyard. Beautiful view, nice deck on the side to look out the vineyard. So we give that away at wine auctions for example, Wine Fest at University of Minnesota Children's Hospital. I've been one of the wine guests there for 3 or 4 times. Now my son's been twice, and he's going to be again this year. And we auction that off to schools we went to and other places. we do the Kentucky Derby and some other nice places that are fun to go to, and then auction off a weekend or up to a week stay at our farmhouse here. People can get to know Napa Valley, and it's pretty exciting. So we pick at night. So we have one big tractor with lights on it, and then each of the pickers has a headlamp. And people, if they happen to be here during harvest, which runs for about a month to 6 weeks, from actually roughly the 1st of September until mid-October, it's really kind of exciting to see all the activity going on at night while little lights walking around with the people with the light on their head, and then the one big light that shines down so they can see better. That gets the fruit to the winery by about 7 o'clock in the morning when it's still cold, and then they can press it, and the wineries think that adds a lot to the quality.
Wow.
That's really, I find that also fascinating. We've stayed on an orange, where they're growing oranges in Central California, San Joaquin Valley, and we stayed in the farmhouse. And there was nothing like staying in the farmhouse. And you're so more connected to the product itself, the wine itself, and understand that process. And, you can get, you understand what the vineyards are actually going through, what the plants are going through that night. If you're cold, they're cold, So you have this closer connection to what it takes to make a really beautiful, glass of wine and or bottle of wine. So I think having that farmhouse has got to be just really, really special for people to. I mean, it's neat. I mean, do you enjoy living there? It's got to be so cool to wake up on a farm, especially when it's vineyards. Yeah. And it's like you said, you talk about it being so clean, and it sounds like it's very sustainable from the sounds of it. Do you think there's ever a need to grow organically or get any of those kind of certifications?
We are certified Napa Green, and we're certified sustainable. We're not certified organic. I think that ties your hands to not be able. If you did have something that needed to be treated, you should treat it. And if you're totally organic, you couldn't do that. So we are as sustainable as possible. For example, after harvest, we seed all the land between the rows with a group of seeds. Some of like legumes that get nitrogen out of the air, and then we grow those, and then we disc those into the soil in the spring, and that's where we get most of our fertilization. So if we need to do something else, we can add that through the drip irrigator. We can mix up different chemical things if we want, and Tom Prentice and Crop Care come and they take what's called petioles. It's the first stem of the first leaf, and that's the standard for the whole industry. You do petiole analysis, and that'll tell you if you're behind in potassium or something, and you can add some more potassium to the soil or to the roots, and see if you can correct that before harvest.
So you grow something like alfalfa? Is that?
Excuse me. No, it's. I mean, I'm not sure the whole mixture of all the different plants that are in it, but I know that the most important one is legumes, which then like they beans. Trap nitrogen out of the air and get nitrogen into the soil. The plants, they take a lot of nitrogen out of the soil every year, so that needs to be replenished.
It's fascinating. It's nice to hear Napa going on the green side as well, having that certification, Napa Green. I wasn't quite aware of that, so that's nice to learn about. And the sustainability is. I think when you're living on the farm, there's just something about that. You have your hands in it. Literally in the soil, and understand what's going on. We really appreciate your attention to detail with that and creating the most beautifully balanced wines ever. They're awesome. And thank you, Diva Linda, to bringing Kenefick Ranch to our attention. How did you find out about them?
I have a long history with their PR people, and she sends me things every once in a while. And I don't remember why this particular brand. It must have been the way she described it. So they were new to me. I'm really thrilled that I I had an opportunity to taste 3 of them. I really am going to keep my eye out here to see how you do in the future, what you come up with, and your wines coming out. I'm hoping that as you produce another few wines, that we can have you and this time your winemaker back. That would be fun.
Yeah.
And we can hear it from both sides. So it's interesting to see the vineyard managers do the handoff to the winemakers, and then the winemakers do the handoff to the marketing people. So maybe we ought to actually have all 3 come on, because I think it would be fascinating to see how one balances it out. But in particular, when I was reading and talking to the PR person, I understand that doctor was real particular about his vineyards, and the wines show that. Doctor, you've done an excellent job. I'm a former teacher, so I'm giving you an A+.
And she's a diva.
Give grades anymore.
She's a diva.
Diva approval. Yeah, really.
There's a story about one vineyard manager who I know pretty well, but he came in and the winemaker was at the winery waiting for the grapes to arrive, and he he picked up one bunch of grapes and he said, "Here, I'm giving you diamonds in the rough, and all you have to do is polish them a little bit." So we think that they're made. If there's a mistake, it's from the vineyard more than in the winemaking process.
Yep. That's what I used to see when I was with the other wineries, with my wineries. That is a very, very true statement. But, it takes 3 to 4 parts to finally get this all up to the consumer and to keep your name out there. And I'm pretty sure that with the fact that it doesn't look to me like you compromised, not even a little bit, that your wines should be more famous than they are, and they probably will become more and more. I know that marketing is a big part of it, and I don't know, that could be almost as expensive as your vineyards. That's a lot of time and a lot of money to get your name out. But you're doing a good job. Very pleased to have met your wines and to have met you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Like Linda said, definitely tasting your wines and also having you here on the show and explaining, how you do this, how you create those beautiful wines. Everybody, again, the website is kenefickranch.com. Linda's article is featured in the February-March issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. You can also read it up on blendradioandtv.com. And of course, follow the diva as she travels around the country and around the world. You can follow her at allingoodtaste.info. And thank you all for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. You can keep up with our shows. We air Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, new episodes every day, basically. And just go to bigblendradio.com and pick the format you want to listen to, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Spreaker or YouTube or Blog Talk. It's all there. And we always love to play music to end our shows. And we always like to pair our music with our guest. And Dr. Kenefick, one of our favorite songs about California is by a gentleman called Josh Pfeiffer. And I think he's Scottish and you're Irish, so I figured we'll cross boundaries there, okay? We'll do that. But his song is called California Days, and it really is just showcasing the beauty of the Golden State, and just like your wines do. So thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
It's my pleasure to talk to you all. I'm very happy to sit in for a while. I think I learned a fair amount from you all.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, we learned
him. Yeah. Well, we'll see you when we get up there, and we're looking forward to your winery opening up for visitors, too. That's going to be a really amazing experience. So hopefully when we get through California, we'll get to see you as well. And I want to see the farmhouse, too. I'm got to put that in there. Got to put it in there. So everyone, here it is, California Days by Josh Pfeiffer. You can keep up with him at joshpfeiffer.com.
I love California days where the sunshine smiles on every face, where the ocean breezes blow and the swaying palm trees grow, I love California days. Take a drive on down the coast, find the things you love the most, from the Golden Gate to La Jolla Bay. Everybody knows it's true, so there's nothing you can do but pack your bags and head on down this way. California days. California days. I got my sunshades and put the rag top down to stay. We could head to Monterey and watch that sunset fade away. I love California days. Take a drive on down the coast, find the things you love the most, from the Golden Gate to La Jolla Bay. Everybody knows it's true, so there's nothing you can do but pack your bags and head on down this way. California days, the California days, the California days.
Take care, everyone.